Hello all, and welcome to this, and this is a video that's about 3 weeks late, only because every time I've tried to do this video, it's always not come out the way I wanted, and I start rambling about things that do not pertain to the video. This is a video response to Steve DeMarco. He put up a video asking people, what is it that makes you go to indie shows or not go to indie shows, and that sort of thing. So, I wanted to respond because, to me, I think this is a pretty good thing to talk about. So if anyone comes across this and decides, ooh, I'm going to do a video response, not to this video, but on this topic, please go to Steve's video and do it to his topic, or put it on his video, because he's the one that wants the information, not really me. So you can have a discussion there. But that said, let me talk about first of why I personally, and this is just me personally, this is not a generalization, this is just me, why I don't go to a lot of indie shows, because it has nothing to do with anything other than a couple of things. First, foremost, my work schedule. I've never been to one of Steve's IWE shows, never, and it's the very reason I'm about to say, because my work schedule is a complete and utter sucks. It just sucks. That's basically the way it is. And it's almost impossible for me to make almost any indie shows, including TSAW, which is the local indie in the little suburb of Houston that I work at. It's literally 5 miles down the road. I mean, it's just like right there. I've been there a couple times, but again, I usually don't get off till about 7 on a Saturday night. And if I get off early, and that's if I get off early. If not, I'm usually not out of there till 9 or 10. So that's just out of the picture. And usually the same thing on a Friday night as well. That's when most of the shows are, so it makes it kind of difficult for me to make the shows. Usually. There's that. Also, I hate driving. That's the other thing. And so, as a lot of people said on the video, location. Where is the show? How far do I have to go to the show? Do I want to go there at night? That sort of thing. Time. When is it? The day that it is. All that sort of thing. Which I think that's probably a pretty big factor for a lot of people, especially on here. Not people outside of diehard wrestling fans. But and I would say the other for them, I would say it's that and then promotion. Them finding out about the shows. I think that's where a lot of indie shows just don't do a good enough job, is promotion. Particularly when it comes to like local promotion of where where are you putting on your show? Here's a good thing. Where are you putting on your show, and what type of wrestling are those people going to want to watch? Most places that's not a big deal. Here in Houston, that is kind of a big deal because you do have a big Hispanic community, and because of that, you have a big lucha fan base. The NWA, I think it was 2, maybe 3 years ago, they put their first show, I think in the Houston area in forever, and it was a lucha-based show. They brought in some fairly big names, but most of the big names were lucha-based or lucha stars, and they drew more. I want to say it was 5,000, but I don't think they drew 5,000. I think it was like 35 or 4,500. I know it was more than what TNA drew for Victory Road when they had that pay-per-view here in Houston. Think about that. A pay-per-view of a nationally based TV product drew less than an NWA show that was just promoted locally. And it was just promoted locally, and it was promoted almost exclusively to the Hispanic community. And it drew huge numbers. I mean, it drew pretty big numbers for that type of show. And so that's the other thing. If you're in an area where you would have a lot of lucha fans, maybe you need to gear your show more to that so you can bring more people in. And on top of that, what type of wrestling does the area you're in like? Is it lucha? Is it, in the Northeast, the big thing, and it's been this way for I would say even during the ECW days, because of the tape trading. That's where tape trading was really big, was in the Northeast. More of the, Japanese style or the hybrid American-Japanese style that, you know, ROH does now and Pro Wrestling Guerrilla does now? Is it that type? You know, or is that the type of fan you're trying to bring in? Is that the type of the area that you're at? Is that what they want to see? Here in Texas, I think it's more of, I think they want a smash mouth. Not necessarily has to be technical masterpiece, but, you know, stiff clotheslines, stiff punches, you know, just stiff suplexes, that sort of thing. Just more of a stiff style, not necessarily a Japanese, you know, strong style or even Kingdom's Road style, but just more of a stiffer style, more of, you know, Stan Hansen type of stuff where, you know, hits a clothesline and it looks like he just killed a guy. That type of thing. I think that's what fans in this area are far more receptive to. Is one of the things I've noticed when I have gone to shows, that when there's a stiff match, doesn't even need to be a hardcore match, it's a stiff match, people seem more intrigued to watch it more than even a hardcore match, which sometimes I think comes off kind of blah. You know, do you have a fan base in the area that you're trying to draw? Are they more into heels and faces? You know, one of the big, if you really compare a lot of the indies around the country, there's definitely a divide when you get to, you know, a lot of the southern wrestling companies and the indies do a lot more of heel versus face, face versus heel. Definitely good guy versus bad guy. Where, you know, in ROH, it's always kind of sometimes shades of gray. Same thing with PWG. It's always kind of a thing of gray. You know, where is it more of that? Because fans like that more. And then if they get a good wrestling match on top of it, well, then it's just really good. You know, they want that sort of thing. Do you have fans that's not what they want? They just want to see good wrestling. Is that what they want? I mean, what does your fan base want? I think that's the other thing, and you have to remember that your fan base isn't necessarily the fan base you're trying to draw in. It's the fan base that actually is willing to come to your show, and you have to recognize that. That's what I was talking about. Location. You know, one of the things that with the original ECW was the fans that showed up for those shows, which, you know, were a lot of the people from the local neighborhood. They had a lot of input into what ECW became because of that. Same thing with CZW. So that sort of thing, I think, is something that I think, just from what I've watched, I don't think a lot of promoters get. You know, what type of crowd do you want? Do you want the ruckus kind of older crowd? Do you want more of a family-friendly crowd? That sort of thing. And, you know, and keep in mind, you don't have to do what the hot thing is. You know, I think a lot of indie companies that I've seen try to be ROH, and to me, you can't be ROH because ROH was based on the idea of bring in the top indie guys and let them put on a great show. Well, you know, not every indie can afford that. So you can't really be that. You know, PWG tried to do that too, and they also their base audience as far as who they're trying to really sell to, which is this DVD audience, is the old tape trader mentality of, you know, I want to see something different. I want to see, you know, good wrestling as opposed to storylines and that sort of thing. Even though, you know, that's important, but they're more into, you know, I want to see good wrestling. I want to see a good wrestling show. And I'm willing to pay money to see a good wrestling show that, you know, and kind of, you know, not have it delivered to me. So that is that sort of thing. I think if you look at Chikara, which is Mike Quackenbush's promotion, you know, here he is up in the Northeast, does a lucha-based promotion, which I would call it. It's really more of, you know, a live-action comic book to a better degree, where he has these really strange characters. It's definitely far more family-based. I think they've had one, maybe two ladder matches in the history of the promotion. They've had, like, same thing with cage matches. I think they've had one table spot in the history of the promotion. And keep in mind, they do a lot of their shows from the old ECW arena. And they draw very well there. And it's a completely different product than what you normally see, even from WWE, from ROH, from, you know, CZW, anybody that really goes there. WWE comes to Houston, 4 or 5 times a year. They put on a very specific type of show. So do you want to do something that is different in the point of you want to draw a older wrestling crowd, or do you want to do something that is more like what the WWE does, where it's more, kid-friendly, far more family-oriented type of show, to a degree. I wouldn't say it's completely that way, but to a degree. Or do you want something in the middle? I think that's something you have to kind of ask yourself. And those are the types of things that when I go to an indie show and I don't go back to an indie show, those are kind of the reasons why I don't. It's not the type of show for me. I don't feel like it's anything that I need to go out of my way to see. And even though I do like going, I'd much rather see a show live. But there's a lot of times where it's just like, it's nothing that you feel like you need to do and go out of your way to do, I guess, is the better way to do it. But those are the types of things that to me are, and when I wish Oliver Scott was still on here, because he used to watch so much indie stuff that I'm sure he could tell, what promotions that I don't watch, and a lot of promotions that just are out there that are doing things that are a bit different. And I think that when you look at Texas in particular, there isn't a quote-unquote super indie or even a big indie, really, here in Texas, which kind of shocks me. I know I've talked to Steve about this before, and he's talked to me about it before too. And it's kind of odd because at one point you had during the territory days, Texas was really like 3 territories ran by 3 different promoters, but they all kind of worked together for the most part. I think sometimes they had their run-ins, but you had like 3 distinct territories here. So, and Houston being one of them. Yet you don't have that big of a promotion, I feel, in Texas, which is kind of disturbing because it's not like there's not a fan base for wrestling here. This is a very good state. This is, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio in particular are very good wrestling towns. So is El Paso. Maybe not so much Austin, but a lot of West Texas towns, even the smaller towns, are good wrestling towns. And when you include, closer to the border, San Antonio, Corpus Christi is a good wrestling town. It's more, probably a lucha type show would do better, but still, we don't have that. And it's kind of annoying. And a lot of that has to do with a lot of things that have nothing to do with wrestling. As far as in the ring, it has stuff to do outside, and politics, and a lot of other things that are just stupid. So, to me, those are the things that just from an outsider's perspective are things that when I look at a wrestling show, I see things that people, probably don't keep people away, don't keep people from coming back. A show in which a person goes and there isn't any storylines. They're just kind of doing one thing after another. The fact that you need to realize that the WWE has trained people to expect certain things from a show, which means that maybe not every match, but but a lot of the matches, you need to have a guy come out, cut a promo before the match, and put the match over and explain, okay, we're having this match because I don't like this guy. And this guy did this to me, or I want to do this to this guy, or this guy's been ducking me, or whatever. Maybe do that 2-3 times, and definitely do it for your main event to put over the fact that these matches mean something. There is something going on. There's a continuing storyline going on, and make sure it's the guy that's the better on the mic. You don't need to do you don't need to do 2 guys going at it on the mic, per se, but keep in mind that the WWE has people trained when they watch pro wrestling on television that they're going to get interviews, they're going to get pre-match interviews, they're going to be reminded of storylines. The storylines are going to be like beaten down into them, which I don't necessarily agree with, but remember those types of things. That's one thing when I go to an indie show that really just aggravates me is often it seems like we're just getting a match for a match. The ring announcers don't, when they're introducing the guys, there's no explanation even from their part, and sometimes you don't need that. But it'd be good if even they said, we're going to see a challenge match, we're going to see a rivalry match, here's what's going on, those sort of things, so that you feel like, okay, this is a continuing thing, this is something that's going to continue. I want to come back so I can see how this finishes. Even if it's just a little thing, maybe that's all it takes, is just one little thing for someone to say, hey, I want to go back, this was fun. I know Steve talked about, serving beer and food, that sort of thing. I think that's a good thing, because I think that a lot of people want to make, kind of an event out of it, kind of, I'm not doing anything on a Friday or Saturday night, and I want to go, I want to go be able to have a drink, eat some food, even if it's just bar food type of thing. If you want to go, with your kids, even down here in Texas, maybe the dad wants to have a beer and, just go out and have some cheap entertainment for his family so they can all hang out and watch some wrestling and that sort of thing. Those are all things that I think you have to think about when you put on a show, and you have to think about it in the terms of who's coming to my show and who do I think might come to my show, i.e. the location, the people around that area that are going to come to your show, and then of course the people that you want to come to the show as well. You gotta weigh those options. You gotta figure out, and then after a while you say, okay, these are the people that are coming to my show. These are the people that I need to try to get to come to my show, and try to get these people to bring their friends and do all that sort of thing. So all of those factors, I've rambled on forever now, but all of those factors to me are the reason why, indie shows work and don't work, why people are willing to go to them and not go to them. I do think location is probably the biggest factor of anything, because almost any indie show I've ever been to, the vast majority of fans are people that live, I would say, probably less than 5 miles away in a lot of cases. And just, it's something to do on, whatever night, and they get in the habit of doing it, and they like going, and it's just something they enjoy doing. And keep in mind that you might get a huge age disparity. Here in Houston, for example, you got people that were brought up on, Paul Bosch wrestling, and they're probably willing to go back to that. They're probably willing to remember when they were a kid and seeing that and kind of having some fun with it. And then you're going to have people that all the way to some kid that all he's ever seen live is a WWE show, and his parents decide, let's go see how this works out. You're going to get all that the variety of stuff, and depending on who you're trying to get to draw to your shows. And the other thing I would say is, why are you putting on the show? I think a lot of promoters don't think of this from what I've seen, or it's either putting on a show to make money. Well, good luck there. I'm happy if I just break even, or I make enough money where I break even for a night and I have enough money to put on a show the next month, or the next, another show down the road. To me, that's more realistic. Or you have some guy that he's saying, I'm going to put this I got enough money, I can run a year's worth of shows, and that's what I'm going to do. And if I don't make any money, that's fine. And if I make money, well, then maybe I can do another year of shows. I just want to put on some wrestling shows. Why are you putting on the wrestling shows? Because if you're putting on wrestling indie shows to make money, well, then I think you've already started off on the wrong foot to a large degree, because I think you need to be more worried about, am I putting on a wrestling show because I enjoy it, and then I'm going to be able to put on another show, more worried about making enough money where I can put on the second show or the next show. That's to me, that's more of what's important when you're doing that. But I'm sure there's people that will, jump and do all of those wacky and crazy things. But, hey, what are you going to do? I think that's it. I've rambled on probably for about 30 minutes now on this, so I don't know if I make any sense or not, but what are you going to do? It's New Year's, everybody. Have a happy and glorious and wondrous New Year's Eve. This is New Year's Eve and New Year's Day and whatever. I don't know when my next video will be. Might be the 4th. Might be before that. There is a video I have planned that I've been planning for a long time, ever since I actually got here on YouTube. I'll probably be doing, so that's something to keep in mind, and maybe some other changes as well. But anyways, that's it. I'm out. Have a good one. Later.